Good day, and welcome to the Budding Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Rubens. In each episode, I cover my experiences, both good and bad, of being a business builder, as well as my journey through the crazy world of entrepreneurship to reach my goal of earning $10 million a year. All right. We are on episode 159 of the podcast. Today is Friday, August the 2nd, 2024, which means we've turned the clock again, and we are now in a brand new month. Looking at today's agenda on episode 159, we're going to get a quote from Robert Greene. He's the author of the book Mastery and several other books as well. It's a great book, by the way, in case you haven't read it. I talked about it when I was doing monthly information and weekly information on the books I was reading. And so I went into it a little bit. I've been going through it very slowly, very meticulously. And so it's been an enjoyable time. It's a great book. It's so clear and so dense in information that many times you have to put it down after a little bit and just sit back and absorb the information that he's discussing. Today on our business strategies, we're going to be talking about transformational leadership. Now, last month was about servant leadership, and we even went through and did an interview with Luke Riesberg over that, which was a great interview. If you want, go back and listen to it. It was the number of gems and nuggets that were dropped in the conversation was, I think, just absolutely phenomenal. But this month we're working with transformational leadership, and I've already lined up the person who's going to be talking on the third week. I'll be doing an interview with her, and I'll tell you more about that as we get to the particular topic for that and just all the different information that she has to bring as a transformational coach. Today's quote, as I said, was from Robert Greene, the author of Mastery. This is not a truly positive quote. It has a little bit of realism in it for all of us to consider. The quote was taken from a paragraph inside of a chapter that I'm working on, and it's something that really struck me as very important. He said, "A false path in life is generally something we are attracted to for the wrong reasons. Money, fame, attention, and so on. Our work suffers for this, and the attention we may have gotten in the beginning starts to fade, a painful process." One thing that I keep hearing, and I started working on myself many, many years ago, is to look and see what I really want. What am I building a life of? Keep in mind, I'm not a youngster. I've been doing this earth thing for quite a few years. And in the process, you get through it for a while and you start looking at the end a bit and you start realizing I still have plenty of time. I think I was in second grade or something, and somebody asked me what I wanted to do with my life. I said, why would I have to decide now? I have all the rest of my life ahead of me. I still have that at my age, and we all do, regardless of what's happening. We have to make decisions, though, in order to make that really work. And so this is what struck me, and I remembered that quote that I gave myself way back when, is we want to make sure that we're not walking down a false path, or worse, a path that is not of our own making. Looking at our business strategies, like I said, we're getting into transformational leadership. And I want to take a quick overview of it. Transformational leadership inspires and motivates teams to achieve extraordinary outcomes by fostering innovation, embracing change, and aligning personal and organizational goals. Now, this is quite a bit different, as we talked about last week, from servant leadership, where your focus is more on bringing the people up to their level of expertise and their level of achievement. And in transformational leadership, we're bringing the team and the individual people up. Mostly the people are being brought up into a teamwork fashion. We'll discuss some of that a little bit later on. But
That's a big difference, is that in servant leadership, you're working at the essentially the purely individual level. You as a leader are to a certain extent supplanting your own drive with the drive to help other people. In transformational leadership, and that works for transformational coaching as well. I know that Coach Sean Smith is on my radar because he's a transformational leader and he does a lot of work on YouTube. And this is something that he's really putting forward as a common thing, is that it's about transformation. It's about what people are able to achieve along the long term of what they're trying to do. For the goals of this leadership style, there are four primary ones. We want to foster innovation and creativity. That's where we encourage a culture where team members feel empowered to think creatively. The second goal is develop and mentor team members. We want to focus on the growth and development of the team and the members individually. Think of this, especially in a coaching format, as a team of a professional sports. Each person is responsible for their own health, their wealth, their ongoing growth as a person. But in the team, everybody's working to work together in order to make sure they're doing the best part of their job that they can. The third goal is to drive organizational change. We want to implement and manage change effectively so that we can improve our processes, adapt to new market conditions if it's a business, or new cultural conditions if it's like a nonprofit. And ultimately, we want to stay competitive. Teams do that. That's a big thing about competition, is that the teamwork with competition is not just who's going to take the place of this. It's who's performing at the highest level so that the team can be competitive. And the fourth goal is to build strong, trusting relationships. We want to be sure that when we go into the huddle, or we're on the bench, or when we're watching team video and play video, we want to make sure that we're working in a trusting, collaborative, and mutual respect environment. Not just from the team members, but also the stakeholders. So any owners that might be involved, any people that are at the top that are volunteering their time, anyone who is working in that coaching realm where you're helping people dive in and to bring themselves up to the level that the team needs. That's the key here for this. The components of transformational leadership are vision and inspiration. We want to activate and articulate that vision for the future that excites and motivates the team. We don't just want to go, hi, here's a high-level vision that none of you understand. We want to also look at intellectual stimulation. This is the creativity factor, right? And challenging the status quo. These are often things that are left out when you're working as a coach, is you do have to actually call people out for things that might or might not be working for them. Individual nurturing, or what is also called individualized consideration. It's recognizing and nurturing the unique strengths and needs of each team member so that the team can perform at its highest level. And finally, the last component is role modeling. It's demonstrating the behaviors and attitudes you want to see in your team. Now, this one is the one that gets a lot of people in trouble, and I myself have seen times when I wasn't performing at my highest level, and the people that are around me, I have a thing that I listen to that's supposed to be a daily program, and it might go for a week without an episode in there. Now, I know these are recorded way in advance because the person who's doing it says so, but I mean, he might go a week without saying anything, and it's a daily thing. So what that says is either this is not high on this leader's level, or the people that the leader is working with aren't remembering it's supposed to be a daily thing. Now, they may load up 3 or 4 episodes at a time, and that's great. But, when you say something is daily, you should be modeling daily. It's part of your promise. It's what you call it is your promise. The Budding Entrepreneur podcast is really geared not just for my own journey, but also your journey to help you as you are encountering the things that you encounter every day as a business leader and a business owner. And reminding you, as I have to remind myself, that the things that we do recommend and recognize how much modeling we've put into this. A lot of times I will record it a few days in advance, and then I'll do pieces of it so that I can functionally put it together. And then I'll make the actual episode work with the most flow and the best sound and take out anything that might not be the best. But it's released on Friday. Now, it used to be on Thursday, and I just saw that a lot of people were waiting until after the weekend. So I said, hey, let's just throw it on a Friday, make my life easier. It's when I have more time, and then I can be responsive to the people and focus it. I'm providing a role model for other people to see, not just here's when I'm doing it, but that I'm doing it consistently. Under the benefits of transformational leadership, there are higher levels of innovation and creativity that come from this. That's something that a lot of people don't quite understand, is that innovation, right? Questioning the status quo, and creativity, coming up with a different way to achieve the same thing in a different way. These are things that make the difference between a typical company and a transformational company. The second benefit is we want to have a stronger alignment with the organization goals and vision. And we do that by focusing at the team level and bringing that down to the individual level so that people can see their part in this, be aligned with it. They can understand a lot of the things that are happening that they wouldn't normally see. And so the organization's goals and visions, they can actually understand their part of it. And the third benefit is you get increased motivation and performance among the team members themselves. And that's really a key thing because as you're building a team, each person has to know where their place in it is. And that's something that is, not often focused on. When the goal is to help people raise their own ability to work within the team so that the team can be more competitive, then it starts to make sense. Looking at some common business examples of transformational leadership. Now, this is a part of the podcast that I did not put on the whiteboard because I thought about this after the fact and decided, you know what, this is important to throw in here and make sure people understand that there are business examples. Tech startups. These are fast-paced environments where innovation and rapid growth are essential. You're really working as a team. In many cases in tech startups, you're utilizing like an agile framework of what you do. And we'll be talking about that next month. And when you use an agile framework, you're providing innovation in a way that can occur in a very rapid way. Corporate turnarounds. When a company is struggling and needs a major shift in direction to revitalize the business with new strategies. Another common business example are the creative industries, advertising, media, and design. This is where creativity is key. You want the transformational leader to foster a culture of innovation and to encourage employees to think outside the box. Inside the box thinking is common. We call it corporate mindset. You might have heard it a few other ways too. But essentially, when you're introducing outside the box thinking, you're able to solve problems in unique ways because you ask different questions to achieve it. And finally, retail chains. Now, these are large retail companies. They tend to fit into the corporate mold, right? But the best ones don't. They work in a more sharing fashion where the company's kind of built in logical units. The company can benefit by adapting to the changing consumer behaviors, integrating e-commerce, and improving their customer service. And they do that by breaking the business out into smaller segments, smaller business units. And they allow that one store to be affected by its unique customer behavior or One might have e-commerce and another one may not. Companies go to Amazon to be able to focus how they sell things because Amazon's whole consumer behavior is clearly understood at a very, very granular level. It's e-commerce by default, and there's a great customer service component behind it. Now, what you have to be aware of, especially with retail, is that Amazon and many other companies are also recommending other products that are related that might take your customer away from you. Okay, so you have to be aware and conceptualize that that is a risk that you might take in doing something like Amazon. Looking at some of the common non-business examples, and you'll recognize a lot of these, educational institutions, right? Transformational leadership is effective in schools and universities to implement new teaching methods, embrace technology, and to improve the student outcomes. The second is nonprofit organizations. Transformational leaders are really functional in improving the fundraising efforts, enhancing their impact. They're inspiring the volunteers and the staff to achieve greater levels. Community groups are another one where we're going to look at a transformational leader addressing shared issues, mobilizing resources, and creating a cohesive community vision. Here in Lafayette, in the greater Lafayette area, we have a program, Leadership Lafayette, and it is an annual program that's designed to help people begin to understand really building the implementation of community into everything they do. And a lot of the people that are involved in Leadership Lafayette they're really heavy movers and shakers in the community. And every year, a whole group of people, usually about 20 to 25 people, get a chance to do projects together and understand the working transformational process that is common in community functioning. And finally, as we've already mentioned, sports teams, right? Obviously, the leader needs to build up the team spirit to improve performance and to achieve the collection goals and collective goals, especially during times of transition or rebuilding. My own favorite team, the San Jose Sharks, have just recently changed their entire leadership. They've brought in new people. The GM has put in an associate or an assistant general manager now. The structure of the team is changing dramatically. They're loading up on new draft picks, and they're basically building the youth of the team back, but doing it in a way that makes natural sense for the team to begin competing again. We hate to use the term, but rebuilding, right, is very common, especially after teams have lost a lot of their senior leadership. And so they have to come on and see a new way of bringing people together. So that's not a surprise, but it's one of those kind of things that as we do our process, these non-business examples, even though sports teams are technically a business, they're a business only in the sense that they have ownership. They have to meet collective bargaining agreements, things like this. So they're more like a union in fashion. They work very much within the community process. When we're talking about transformational leadership, we want to look at implementation. And there are 6 points of this that I want to focus on, and I'm really not going to talk too much about each one of them, but I'm going to kind of remind us that the focus here is on team and mission, not necessarily on just the individual level. Again, different from servant leadership and very different from next month's topic. The first implementation tip is to develop and communicate a clear vision and mission for the team or the organization. When you have a mission and you have a vision, people can be helped to see their part of it. If there is no mission, if there is no clear vision, and by clear, I mean something you can spell out very easily that people can understand. Without that clearness and that overall mission, people have a hard time understanding how they fit into the team, and they'll go back to individual thinking, and that's not necessarily advancing the team. Another implementation tip is to encourage brainstorming sessions to support innovative ideas. Now, I work within a community online that we can put out our questions to the community, and they can provide us with ideas, suggestions, whether it's good or bad, what some good points are and some points that need to be improved. And it's done without the aid of necessarily the entire top level admin staff having to get involved. When they do, you know that's because this is something that's a senior topic that you've been dealing with and really needs some real organizational help. But brainstorming gives you that availability to put your ideas out, get them handled in a supportive manner. Another tip, allow other members to provide reinforcement that is positive within each other. Same concept, okay? By doing that, as long as you keep it positive, you're not having to work from moral authority, you're working from equal authority. Moral authority is its own topic, and we could talk about that later on, but it's a concept that really helps out in sales, is to lead people in direction, especially when they are beginning to put the brakes on. They start to get, I'm not sure what I want to do. And it's like, okay, well, let's talk our way through this, right? That's a form of moral authority. We're not dragging them, but we're leading them. The fourth one, build in systems and strategies to provide continuous feedback and recognize individual contributions whenever possible. That one's pretty self-explanatory, because if you're building systems in your business and you're putting strategies in there, you should be looking for continuous feedback from both your customers, clients, whichever one you use, and the people that work with you and the people that work for you. Okay, so look at vendors. Vendors, how are their systems functioning? And we want to see and be able to give and receive feedback from that when things need to change or when they need to improve, but also when they have improved and when they have changed. The next implementation tip, celebrate wins as a team. Don't forget that with individual contribution, there's also team contribution. And if the team is looking at their record and saying, wow, we suck, we're 15-35. Well, if you stop and think about that, you had 15 wins. Now you can go back and look at those. If you celebrate those, it's easier to be able to say, yeah, this is something that I really want to, celebrate. I'm happy with the 15 wins we got under our belt. A lot of times in final games and stuff, teams will play and you're like, that's the way they've been playing all season. Well, yeah, that's the easy way for them to do it. That's the way that led to wins along the way. You don't get to the Final Four or the Elite Eight or the Stanley Cup or anything by being a slacker team. You go through two phases. You go through the main season that has preseason and then a bunch of games that, you sort things out. And the team begins building its own identity so everybody knows how to work. Then when you get to the playoffs, now you continue playing your game. It's the one that got you there. Why would you necessarily change it? All you want to do is make tactical changes now based upon the way the other team is playing their game. And so, when you're celebrating wins, that's what you're doing, is you're celebrating the way you got that job done, the way you won that contract or whatever. You're celebrating that as a team because everyone's working together, and that is a great thing for everyone. The final implementation, this is for you as a leader in your own company. We've talked about this. Lead by example in embracing change and innovation. You want to live your life as you would ask others to do. That's the thing about being a leader. If you live your life differently than you would ask others, you're out of alignment. The words you say hold no moral authority because you don't back them up with action. And that's key for leaders to understand. You may want to have a strong leadership style. You may want to have a weak leadership style, right? One where you lead by pushing others up. I don't mean that weak as in bad. I mean weak as in you're not super strong about it. You're helping others reach up. That's the servant leadership. That's to a certain point agile leadership as well, and many others. But if you live your life as you would ask others to do, you gain the moral authority to be able to lead. You gain the change and the innovation in yourself that allows you to become a better leader. You yourself have to continue rising to the top just with your team. You have to become a better leader as you bring your team up, as your team comes up on their own. You have to be ahead of them. It's kind of like being a teacher. I have a person who said, I want to be a teacher, but I don't know what to teach. Go back to the people that you want to teach, ask them what they're looking for, and all you really have to do while you're beginning to make whatever it is that you're going to teach is either find a resource that you can use that will provide a stair-step fashion and you provide the perspective on it, or you simply stay one lesson ahead of everybody else. In either way, you're raising your own level ahead of everybody else. And that change and innovation is super important to what all we are trying to achieve as leaders. Now, in conclusion, transformational leadership, it's all about setting a clear vision, encouraging creativity, supporting and recognizing team efforts, celebrating successes together, and leading by example in embracing change and innovation. Think hard and long about it if you're having a leadership style that isn't really working well for you, especially if your business has a group of people that seem to be unmotivated. Look to yourself first. Make sure the way you're doing what you do is capable of leading others to do the best they can do. So that's it for today's episode. We'll be looking a little deeper next week. The following week will be the case study. We'll be bringing in my interview with my friend that's going to be coming on for us. And then we'll wrap it up on the fourth week with a complete view of everything moving forward. We'll look at how things might work. Our day's agenda was on our quote from Robert Greene. We did our transformational leadership as our business strategy, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up today. I wish you the best in your health, your wealth, your business, your family, everything about you. Take care. We'll see you back here next week with a brand new episode.